Down to the River radio show presents Tiff Alkouri and James Ramsey, the primary songwriters behind the 80s retro pop styled Los Angeles based band Fire Tiger. We're going to talk about their latest full length record, All the Time. So please welcome Tiff and James. All right, folks, from the shores of the North Saskatchewan River, right here in scenic Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, this is your host, Scott Roos, for Down to the River radio show. And I'm all the way over to LA today with this phenomenal pair of young people. I'm talking to Tiff and James, the principal members, the brain trust, the evil geniuses behind retro rock act Fire Tiger. How you guys doing?
Good. Thank you for that lovely introduction. We are evil.
Well, now here's the thing, and I've been wondering this for a while because you guys have been on my radar probably for about at least 6 years. You've got this really retro vibe, and I know this is often talked about amongst music journalists. I mean, why kind of this 80s sound? I mean, where did this whole thing originate from, guys?
Good question. So we like to think of the 80s, 70s, and 60s as just a time period where music was at its all-time best. So we're talking about the best ingredients, the best musicians, the best songwriting in the world. And so we just are inspired by the best of the best. And to us, that ended in the early 90s. That's when it kind of went downhill, in our opinion. Obviously, we have some really phenomenal musicians today that you could find if you dig. But who has time for digging? You know, we're talking about the mainstream. I'm talking about the top 40.
Yeah, for
sure.
So
for us, like, we just are very inspired by what the best of the best. So that would just be the 80s, 70s, and 60s. For us, maybe the 80s a little bit more because there were a lot more songs, in our opinion, that were bigger and that we loved. But obviously the 70s and 60s as well. What's your opinion, James?
Actually, I pretty much agree. It was the golden age of music, and we're just hoping that maybe if we have a hit with that without taking anything modern into consideration, we're trying to kind of recreating what happened then. We're hoping that maybe music will change back.
Well, what do we mean by change back? We just mean by being the best that you could be as a person. There were no limits back then. It wasn't like you have to sound like this and you have to dumb down your music because the people are dumb. We've been in a major label situation where they've told us we need to dumb down our music because people are dumb. I mean, I said, how insulting are you?
That's not true entirely. I mean, 60s music sounds 60s, 80s music sounds 80s.
Oh, we're talking about
what was common between all those decades was really the
songwriting.
Yeah, people seem to write songs with longevity in mind, versus since then, music has kind of turned more into kind of a commodity that singles, what was popular last year isn't necessarily, what people are excited about this year.
It's very safe and it's very sanitized. I think that's what you guys are trying to get at, right? I mean, like there's a huge movement in music now where people are essentially, getting into boardrooms and saying, these are the exact chords you need to use because they're going to resonate more with people. We've done all these studies and this, that, and the other thing. It's not like the old days where, literally like record labels and radio hosts and stuff would just throw things at the wall and play it and hope that it's stuck, right? I mean,
right.
would you ever see a Frank Zappa, become so prominent in this modern day and age with all that music?
Would you see the Beatles? No, the Beatles would not make it today because there's too many bands and they would cover them. Yeah. And I just feel like the Beatles wouldn't make it, Led Zeppelin wouldn't make
Frank
it.
Zappa, I saw an interesting Frank Zappa interview where he actually talked about the subject of kind of curating for like how the record industry curates talent. and how back in the day there was a cigar chomping guy.
Yeah.
And everyone hated him, but at least he was like, oh well, I don't know, just throw it out there and see what
exactly.
sticks. And then nowadays you have kind of a younger guy who goes, oh, I know what young people want, and it's not this or that. It's so they have a more proactive. You know what I mean?
And actually, it's not really just young people who are in charge of music today. It's actually the people that, it's a shame. It's the people that grew up in the 80s, right? And they're like, no, we've got to be young. And they're insecure and they want to be like, so not back then. They're afraid of bringing that kind of music back because they're insecure about themselves. It's kind of like when you get older and you're like, I'm young. And then you start going to raves as an old woman,
Yeah, sorry
like
about that.
But the young kids, actually, they love classic rock. This is proven. It's their favorite genre out of everything. They did a study.
Yeah, well, that's true because, my own kids now who are like, Gen Z kids, they're like 11-year-old twins. They like Queen,
Yeah, and why not?
And there's artists out there like The Weeknd who sound a little 80s and that's really resonating with kids as well.
Yeah, actually the top song of the 2000s era is an 80s inspired song. It's Uptown Funk. That made it to #1 spot. And then the second one is Party Rock, which is also a great song. I would say that's a little bit, 80s inspired in the way that it's big, the melody's great, and a lot of color. But I just feel like if you go in that mentality of trying to make 80s music or 70s, it's really just a time. Like, let's go back to the time of being free and great. Then you're going to have great songs, I think.
Yeah. Well, now here's what I'm wondering, and I've listened to every single one of your records over the last couple of days, and I've just kind of been living with the music a little bit. I mean, coming from that 80s era, like I can't believe how mind-blowingly close you guys get to like not just melodic choices, but even the lyrics. Like, in the opening one, I think it's maybe "Don't Take Me Home," but you use a metaphor, crashing through the night. They don't do that in lyrics anymore. That's a very 80s sounding lyric. I mean, do you guys like, you're obviously very well versed in the whole thing. How did this, how closely do you study this stuff?
Well, the lyrics sometimes just flow out of us. Mostly when we're walking or in the shower, doing dishes, cooking. We never just sit there and force lyrics out. Well, sometimes we do, but that 99% of the time we're very it just comes out of us naturally. I think it's subconscious, I guess.
Crashing through the night. Came up with that. I
came up with that. Crashing through the night. Yeah, I guess Crash, our friend Crash.
You were thinking of Crash?
No, I wasn't thinking of Crash, but he's kind of 80s with his long hair. I don't know. Maybe that subconsciously went in my mind. It could be anything. Crash. We got in a car crash, a few months ago, so that could have been it.
Yikes.
Yeah, they rear-ended us. Night. Who doesn't know about nights?
So then, James, when you sit down and write with Tiff, I mean, like what, how does that work? How do you guys operate? I mean, I see a keyboard back in the background and a bit of a studio set up there. So, I mean, maybe go through your process a little bit.
Most of the songs Tiff comes up with first. She comes up with several songs every day, basically. And I'm kind of her editor. I edit them down. I go, that song is all, So I guess there might be a bunch of hidden gems that I've kept from everybody, but we try to every song we like put everything into and they usually start with her. Sometimes I'll have an idea and she writes most of the lyrics. I write most of the music, but sometimes she'll come up with kind of a lyric and melody, and then I'll arrange it.
It depends on what song. So
yeah,
want to choose a few songs out of the bunch. Energy he came up with the melody. and I came up with the lyric while we were in a canyon running around. Runyon Canyon. How cheesy. Runyon Canyon, running around. And I just said, energy, energy, who's got the energy, as I was sweating up the hill. And I was thinking of like a Gatorade Jane's Addiction commercial.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then he was like, that would go perfectly with the melody I just made up today. And then that's how it happened. In less than a week, it was done.
So, like, I'm assuming, James, you've got some formal training on the keyboards because you're pretty solid and proficient.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've been playing since I was a little kid, and I went to USC School of Music and stuff like that.
That's where you learned how to do the Pro Tools.
Yeah, I got a D in Pro Tools actually. Yeah, and now I'm using. That's what we use. But
so how'd you learn just by yourself?
I learned most of the stuff I learned from. I had a piano teacher named Mrs. Woodward. I'm not sure if she's. I hope she's still around.
Well, he learns by ear. He doesn't know. Do you even know how to read notes?
No, I don't know how to read notes. I actually I play by ear. I kind of would cheat on piano assignments. I would kind of say, hey, can you play it first? And then anyways, I'm not talented with reading music or playing sight reading, but I can, if you give me one note, I can give you
the entire song.
Well, when I hear a song, I usually know what notes are going on if you give me the first note.
Yeah. Well, so are you saying you have a form of perfect pitch, James?
It's technically called relative pitch. So I know a couple people who have perfect pitch. I don't have that. That's where they say, oh, what note is this, without another note for reference, and they can tell you it's a D or something like that. I can tell you it's a D if you give me a B or something like that. That's relative pitch.
Seems to work for you.
Yeah.
So now, Tiff, I mean, similar question with your own singing. I mean, it's no secret that, it even says in your bio you're a contralto, which means you sit in the lower register. I mean, how long have you been singing, and how do you keep the voice going, and do you have any formal training and so on and so forth?
Well, definitely no formal training, because my dad was very against me being a singer.
Uh-oh.
He's Arab, and I think they'd stone me if I were to go to the village that he came from. I think they keep threat. Actually, I still receive those messages. They send me like pictures of ISIS and women being stoned. I'm like, get the hell! I need to write the government about my family. Anyway, so he did not want me to be a singer. So unfortunately, I never received any help from my family with that. So I just had to kind of train myself. And when I met James in my early teens, he was like, you need to be like Madonna, see how she's talking, but then singing, don't be breathy like these singers. And it was the modern day singers I was listening to.
Yeah.
And he said, do not be like them. You need to go look at Madonna's voice, go look at Stevie Nicks' voice, go look at all those singers, Ann Wilson, and go see how they sang, which was not trying at all. It was really their natural voice in a very non-breathy, I guess rock style. But it's not really rock, it's more like Broadway. You would say it's Broadway. It's just your natural voice. And so I just kind of studied all these people, and then I realized I could just be myself and put a little projection in there. And I had to discover why I sounded like a male frog. It's because I'm a contralto. So there is a place for me, and that's in the Annie Lennox category. The Stevie Nicks is a contralto.
Yeah.
Anybody with a deep voice, I get comparisons to anybody with a deep voice. Cher,
Well, yeah, I was gonna say like that Believe era Cher, where there's kind of a bit of an '80s kind of techno vibe, and she's really in that low range. I mean, I guess for most of her career she was in the low range, except for maybe when she was with Sonny and she was trying to look all cute and pretty.
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned Madonna because I mean, you know, the track off the new record, All the Time, which came out July 3rd, Solo Paquito, for instance, that really reminds me of kind of that Lucky Stars holiday era Madonna. I mean, you know, I would imagine that Madonna's a big influence, especially that early stuff.
Oh yeah, she's number
Thanks.
one. She's number one for me. The early Madonna, even the later Madonna. I mean, who doesn't love Madonna?
It's amazing how current she's always been able to be, right? Like, except for maybe the last maybe 5-10 years tops where she's kind of drifted off into the ether. But I mean, I'm sure if she really wanted to,
If
she
she
could.
really
No,
wanted
actually,
to,
she stayed current. It's just being current is what's the problem. If she just did what she did before.
Yeah, I think now, because current back in her what was that you know, in the 90s, early 2000s, that was good stuff.
Yeah.
But now I think it'd be cooler if she did what she did back then.
Yeah.
You know, she brought out that Lucky Star kind of vibe. That'd be really cool.
I remember her saying in an interview that she was saying, "Oh, all that stuff back then, that was so silly." She called it silly.
Oh no, Madonna! Don't call it silly.
I think she was kidding.
Yeah, probably.
I'd love to get that first record on vinyl. I like to collect the stuff from that era. I have all my rock records in the back right now. Like, I have a little mini collection.
What do you got back there? I can't see.
Is that Kiss?
Yeah, that's a rock and roll over. Sorry, there's Nirvana unplugged in the back there. I'm assuming you guys ascribe to the grunge killed the 80s music, you know.
Well, I mean, it was, you know, Nirvana was genius music.
Okay, good. We can still be friends. We can still be friends.
we love that stuff. It's just the stuff that followed it, and when it became too much of it. Like, obviously Pearl Jam's great, you know, Nirvana's great, and a few others, but then there were like millions of other bands that were like, all right, we're gonna all be depressed at the same time, and no light is coming in, there's no sunshine allowed, and it was just too much.
Yeah.
You need variety.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I was going to say too, like you mentioned Annie Lennox, I know Culture Club has been, you know, tossed around a little bit. And I think that's maybe because of the instrumental vibe that you guys have. But, you know, just watching a few of your music videos, I mean, like, you know, watching you, for instance, Tiff, I mean, I pick up, like, with the stage moves, I pick up a bit of a Belinda Carlisle thing. I mean, you know, are you well versed in the Go-Go's and Belinda's solo stuff?
Well, thanks to YouTube, yeah, I've discovered so many great bands, and I mean, they were just the best. So of course I'm going to be, I guess I am inspired by Heaven is a Place on Earth and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Belinda Carlisle?
Yeah,
that's Belinda.
Solo stuff,
Yeah, there was 3 or 4 artists right around the same time that kind of had that same vibe, and I don't know who came first. Like, you know, Tiffany, for instance. Speaking of,
I met her.
You did? What?
I met her.
She was playing at the Whiskey. She did a show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I met her backstage, and
that's awesome.
like, hey, Tiffany, I'm Tiffany too, and we're like from the same city. Like, you're from Whittier, I think, and I'm from Buena Park. We're right next door. You know, she has a Middle Eastern father. I have a Middle Eastern father.
That's interesting. Is that why you changed to just Tiff? So that there wouldn't...
I was like, this is weird. Like, we're like the same person.
Yeah, you guys definitely have a bit of that 80s, like late 80s mall rock vibe, you know, and I mean, there's a huge aspect of Tiffany's, you know, that first like self-titled record that really, I think, resonates through Fire Tiger's music for sure.
Love her and Debbie Gibson,
Debbie Gibson, yes, that's there was Belinda, there was Tiffany, Debbie Gibson. Those 3 right around that time period. Yeah, I remember like as yesterday. It was like middle school dances, and they would play. You know, Tiffany would come on, and everybody would be like, "Yeah." Well, now you guys also do some acoustic stuff, though. Like on this record, for instance, you guys do a track called "Undeniable," and I think, you know, in "Suddenly Heavenly" there was an acoustic one there too. I mean, is that just so that you guys can mix things up a little bit, or you know, what's going on with that one with "Undeniable"?
So "Undeniable," all these songs just come out of the blue. None of them are planned. These are songs we go to the gym and I start singing in the car, and then James looks at me and says, either that sucks and you need to shut up, or that rocks and you still need to shut up because I need to concentrate. We're going to go work out and then stop concentrating. I sing a lot. I'm very annoying. Very annoying.
That's just, you're being a singer if you're singing all the time.
Like, if my dogs could tell me to shut up, they would. But yeah, so that Undeniable song was just another song of mine that James really liked. And we just decided, hey, you know, this album does need a slower kind of vibey song. And I guess it works.
Yeah, I mean, the undeniable, deniable, that part.
Oh, that was he wanted to repeat the niable, which I think he was smart about that because it is our own little word there, like how Michael Jackson made his shamone. Like, what's a shamone? What's niable?
Well, it's just an extension of undeniable.
It's an extension, yeah, but it is a word that we kind of created.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good one. I mean, I definitely like the acoustic vibe, and I think it'll resonate really good on this show. The other single, what was the one that just came out now? Flying Solo. You guys kind of did that, you know, in isolation aspect. I mean, you know, the visual component is big for you guys too, right? I mean, there's always videos that come out with every single record. I mean, you know, tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. Tell us about that, James.
Flying Solo?
Yeah.
That started as an instrumental piece that I came up with. And then Tiff made a vocal melody and lyrics, and I liked it a lot. And and then we kind of made the video kind of about being in quarantine and having fun stuff.
Well, I mean, all our videos are low budget anyway, so we're like, hey, this is a chance for us to just be like, the reason why it's low budget is because we're in quarantine.
Yeah, so we get to have an excuse there.
Yeah. You know, I think in one of those shots, there's somebody jumping around in the background, and maybe that's in Jordan's, you know, segment where there's somebody jumping around in those, what do they call those, moon boots or whatever, those bouncy things. That's
that was actually, she was just some random person. She just he was filming outside, and then she happened to be what were those things she was wearing?
I don't know what she was wearing. I
Roller
think they're
skate.
Probably rave shoes, but they're really cool.
Yeah, she just happened to be kind of out and about, and she started hopping around to the song, and it looked great. And so we
just like, hey, do you want to be in a video? Okay.
Yeah, she didn't sign a release form or anything, but
but thank you, girlfriend, wherever you are.
I hope she likes it.
Yeah, and of course, you know, you guys kicked off the release with, I think "Don't Take Me Home" was the lead-off single, right? So, I mean, what are you getting at in that one?
Where do we get that one?
No, like, I mean, like, you know, from a writing standpoint, I mean, what were you thinking of there?
I was thinking of like a hair metal band for sure. I don't know. Sometimes we think we're other bands. Mental, or I do. I think, today I'm going to be this person, and and different people too. Sometimes I think I'm some person off the street, you know, with problems and heroin. I don't do any of that, but I could get into that mindset. And because my life is very boring, I literally sit here with my dogs and stare at the wall. So sometimes I have to tap into other people's lives and pretend I'm them. So I think that's what I was doing there. And then James made it over the top.
Yeah, we kind of like to start every album with a kind of minor key, over the top, kind of theatrical, kind of hair song.
Yeah, I think that's funny because we reel in all these hair metal people into our solo Paquito. I just want to see a bunch of hardcore dudes singing solo Paquito. That's all I really want.
Well, now you guys have done a little bit of gigging around LA, or maybe a lot, but I mean, I know there's footage of you guys at the Whiskey from maybe not too long ago. I mean, you know, given the fact that you can't really do that, at least right now, I mean, what are you guys up to? I know a lot of musicians in quarantine or lockdown or whatever you want to call it have just been writing. So, I mean, is this, you know, part of your MO right now?
Well, right now we're kind of trying to promote the new album, and we're making videos for each song, and we're trying to, I don't know if we're going to adhere to it, but we're trying to release a new video every Monday. So tomorrow, actually, we're going to put out our video for all the time.
Or every other Monday, at least.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do. I think
because I'm editing it, so he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna be putting out every Monday," and I'm like, "Excuse me, we don't even have footage for half of our videos, let alone the editing."
Well, we've made some progress on a few. So so tomorrow we're releasing all our video for all the time, and then we're gonna continue just cranking away on videos for this album for a little bit.
So what we're trying to say is quarantine has been excellent. Okay, this is the best thing that has happened to us business-wise, because we were able to do all this homework that we've never had the time or brain space to do, like our dog.
Do you hear that snoring?
Our dog is snoring.
Our dog Gershwin is snoring.
Okay, but what I want to say is it's been great. We've been focusing on all these little things, like getting our music on the qualified for the Billboard charts. We never did that before. We didn't know we had to do all this mundane stuff in order to qualify, and so we finished that for this album. Snoring's getting louder.
Bring him over here.
No, don't bring him over. Bring him over. Oh,
right.
His tongue is sticking out. So cute. He looks like a cat, actually.
He's like
I'm surprised my cat hasn't showed up after that big speech.
Yeah, where is Dot?
Who knows? There's a lot of activity going on upstairs today, so who knows? She's usually here though. I've done like 5 or 6 videos where people be like, "Oh, hey, your cat's going across." Yes, I have a cat.
Love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been good. It's been good, and we're concentrating on just the paper or the homework aspect, which is so important. You have to concentrate on, like, we don't have a Wikipedia. What the hell's going on with that? Now we have time to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason why now all of a sudden I'm adept at doing video interviews and using Zoom and like hooking my microphone through and like all of that stuff is because I've actually had time to look into that, and I've done a bunch of these now, and I know it works and it doesn't and blah, blah, blah. So I get you there.
Yeah.
So new videos coming out every other week or, whatever. Like it sounds like you guys are, well on your way. You're doing the whole press junket as well. So, I mean, I really appreciate you just taking a little bit of time just to chat with us here on Down to the River. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much for interviewing us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, no worries.